Wasn't sure exactly. This is not totally planned out. I just wanted to get some of this out, and I felt like there are tons of people out there that need to hear this, and I know a lot less people are reading these days. Thought I'd help get some of the info out. Embrace the pain. I just wanted to start this channel to, one of my main goals is to help people deal with suffering. And I just was reading something this morning that I just couldn't wait to explain. And it's comes out of this book by Mark Manson, Everything is Fucked. I just feel like so many people in the world today need to hear this. And I just can't, it just blows my mind. So, based on the idea of what he calls the blue dot effect, it's a study. This study, they took kids at all different universities and basically got two different buttons. You have a screen, two different buttons, and you're looking at 1,000 dots randomly at different times, right? And it'd be different colors. So you either hit one button or you hit the others, blue or not blue. And so what happened is, most people would get it, blue or not blue, that's pretty easy. And then what they realized is when they started varying the dots, for instance, they would show them like more purples and not show them blue for an extended period of time, people started thinking they were seeing blue. And they just started, basically what it comes down to is like, we as humans, when you're looking for something, you end up kind of seeing it. And this, we can see this and we know about this when it comes to like hunting and things like that. People go hunting and they don't see a deer for an extended period of time. They're gonna be like, man, it's gotta be a deer. Look at those antlers. That looks like, those trees look like antlers, things like that happen. And then you can also say the same for like cops and when they don't see crime for a long time and they pull over different people. These are just examples that I'm coming up with. I can't even remember what exact examples he uses. But I'm actually gonna read you some of this. So basically, all right, so what the blue dot effect actually does or means is, we'll just read this one little statement. So the better things get, the more perceived threats when there are none. Where there are none. Yeah, so there's more perceived threats where there are no threats. And you can see this in our society. So basically, we live in the most cush times and there's less crime and we're safer than ever. But the fact that we don't have to run from tigers or like I don't know anybody, I'm sure whoever's watching this doesn't know anybody who's ever had to really fight for their life or had to go fetch water. You just turn on a faucet, you get water. To stay warm, when's the last time you chopped wood to stay warm? What I'm trying to get at is that the fact that we live in such a cush society, basically whenever you don't have problems, as human beings, we look for problems. So the less serious problems you have, like our society today, the more likely you're gonna get upset because there's no organic ketchup at the restaurant. Like the little things, you will give too much energy. And this is like, there's studies on this. It's amazing. So basically, it's like what we find then is that our emotional reactions to our problems are not determined by the size of the problem. They also did one study where they text different people and, sorry, this was in the 80s, so they hit the people with a beeper, and when they would get that beep, they would write down on a scale of 1 to 10 how happy they were in the moment, and then and what's been going on in their life. And what they realized is, like, no matter what was going on, most people were floating around a 7. They might go up a little bit every now and then on a vacation or something, and then they would go back down at some point, depending on what's going on in their life. But for the most part, we all keep our happiness around a 7. And that's us. So the blue dot effect is everywhere. It affects all perceptions, judgments. Everything adapts and shapes itself to our slight dissatisfaction. And that is the problem with the pursuit of happiness. In his last book, he basically taught, I think that's where I got this from, but the pursuit of happiness is in itself unhappiness. Let me say that again. The pursuit of happiness is in itself unhappiness. I know it's hard to accept and understand for some people, but that's real stuff, man. You know? That's real stuff. I love this. He talks about how the philosophers of antiquity didn't see happiness as a virtue. On the contrary, they saw humans' capacity for self-denial as a virtue because feeling good was just as dangerous as it was desirable. I'm just going to read. I got a little star on this. Go ahead and read this. No matter how much progress is made, no matter how peaceful and comfortable and happy our lives become, the blue dot effect will snap us back into perception of a certain amount of pain and dissatisfaction. Most people will win millions in the lottery, but don't end up happier in the long run. On average, they end up feeling the same. People who become paralyzed in freak accidents don't become unhappier in the long run. On average, they also end up feeling the same. This is because pain is the experience of life itself. Positive emotions are the temporary removal of pain. Negative emotions, the temporary augmentation of it. To numb one's pain is to numb all feeling, all emotion. It is to quietly remove oneself from living. The point is, not only is there no escaping the experience of pain, but pain is the experience. This is why hope is ultimately self-defeating and self-perpetuating. No matter what we achieve, no matter what peace and prosperity we find, our mind will quickly adjust its expectations to maintain a steady sense of adversary, thus forcing the formulation of a new hope, a new religion, a new conflict to keep us going. We will see threatening faces where there are no threatening faces. We will see unethical job proposals where there are no unethical job proposals. And no matter how sunny our day is, we'll always find one cloud in the sky. Therefore, the pursuit of happiness is not only self-defeating, but also impossible. It's like trying to catch a carrot hanging by a string tied to the stick attached to your back. The more you move forward, the more you have to move forward. When you make the carrot your end goal, you inevitably turn yourself into the means to get there. And by pursuing happiness, you paradoxically make it less attainable. The pursuit of happiness is a toxic value that has long defined our culture. It is self-defeating and misleading. Living well does not mean avoiding suffering. It means suffering for the right reasons. Because if we're going to be forced to suffer by simply existing, we might as well learn how to suffer well. Oh, I know I have towards the end, it just sums up a good bit. This is amazing. Okay. So I'm just going to read you this because I got a lot of underlines on here. The human body can go either way, depending on how you use it. If you get off your ass and actively seek out pain, the body is anti-fragile, meaning it gets stronger the more stress and strain you put on it. Breaking down of your body through exercise and physical labor builds muscle and bone density, improves circulation, and gives you really nice butt. I need to read this a little more like he reads it, like the way he writes, because it's funny. I don't know when the funny parts are coming up. Bone density improves circulation and gives you a really nice butt. But if you avoid stress and pain, i.e., if you sit on the damn couch all day and watch Netflix, your muscles will atrophy, your bones will become brittle, and you will degenerate into weakness. The human mind operates on the same principle. It can be fragile or anti-fragile depending on how you use it. When struck by chaos and disorder, our minds set to work making sense of it, all deducing and constructing mental models, predicting future events and evaluating the past. This is called learning, and it makes us better. It allows us to gain from failure and disorder. But when we avoid pain, when we avoid stress and chaos and tragedy and disorder, we become fragile. Our tolerance for day-to-day setbacks diminishes, and our life must shrink accordingly for us to engage only in the little bit of the world we can handle at one time. Because pain is universal constant. No matter how good or bad our life gets, the pain will be there. And it will eventually feel manageable. The question then, the only question is, will you engage it? Will you engage your pain or avoid your pain? Will you choose fragility or anti-fragility? Everything you do, everything you are, everything you care about is a reflection of this choice. Your relationships, your health, your results at work, your emotional stability, your integrity, your engagement with the community, the breadth of your life experiences, the depth of your self-control, the depth of your self-confidence and courage, your ability to respect and trust and forgive and appreciate and listen and learn. And not only is this diminishment failing to bring us more happiness, but it is generating greater amounts of emotional fragility, which is why everything appears to be so fucked. And then he talks about meditation and how meditation, the reason, how it's like such a simple thing. You sit on a cushion, close your eyes, breathe, but we don't want to deal with everything that comes up in our mind. All the old past experiences that you need to work out, things you need to think about. Most people avoid meditation the same way a kid avoids doing homework. It's because they know what meditation really is. It's confronting your pain. It's observing the interiors of your mind and heart in all our horror and glory. This is really good. I just remember the Buddha said that suffering is like being shot by two arrows. The first arrow is the physical pain. It's the metal piercing the skin and the force colliding into the body. The second arrow is the mental pain, the meaning and emotion we attach to being struck, the narratives that we spin in our minds about whether we deserved or didn't deserve what happened. In many cases, our mental pain is far worse than any physical pain. In most cases, it lasts far longer. While pain is inevitable, suffering is always a choice. That there is always a separation between what we experience and how we interpret that experience. That there's always a gap between what our feeling brain feels and what our thinking brain thinks. And in that gap, you can find the power to bear anything. I definitely recommend reading this book. This one, I just felt like so many people need to hear this stuff. So, truly adult virtues are anti-fragile. They benefit from the unexpected. The more fucked up a relationship gets, the more useful honesty becomes. The more terrifying the world is, the more important it is to summon up the courage to face it. The more confusing life becomes, the more valuable it is to adopt humility. Pain is value. Okay, I'm just going to skip to some underlined parts just to, look, a few more things and we're done. I hope you're enjoying this. Death is psychologically necessary because it creates stakes in life. There is something to lose. You don't know what something is worth until you experience the potential to lose it. You don't know what you're willing to struggle for, what you're willing to give up or sacrifice. Pain is the currency of our values. Without the pain of loss or potential loss, it becomes impossible to determine the value of anything at all. Pain is at the heart of all emotion. Negative emotions are caused by experiencing pain. Positive emotions are caused by alleviating pain. When we avoid pain and make ourselves more fragile, the result is our emotional reactions will be widely disproportional to the importance of the event. We will flip our shit when our burger comes in with too many leaves of lettuce. We will brim with self-importance after watching a bullshit YouTube video telling us how righteous we are. Life will become an infallible roller coaster, sweeping our hearts up and down as we scroll up and down on our touchless screen. The more anti-fragile we become, the more graceful our emotional responses are, the more control we exercise over ourselves, and the more principled our values. Anti-fragility is therefore synonymous with growth and maturity. Life is one never-ending stream of pain, And to grow is not to find a way to avoid that stream, but rather to dive into it and successfully navigate its depths. The pursuit of happiness is then an avoidance of growth, an avoidance of maturity, an avoidance of virtue. Let me say that again. The pursuit of happiness is then an avoidance of growth, an avoidance of maturity, and an avoidance of virtue. It is treating ourselves and our minds as a means to some emotionally giddy end. It is sacrificing our consciousness for feeling good. It's giving up our dignity for more comfort. The ancient philosophers knew this. Plato, Aristotle, and the Stoics spoke of a life not of happiness, but of character, developing the ability to sustain pain and make the appropriate sacrifices, as that's really what life is in their time. One long, drawn-out sacrifice. The ancient virtues of bravery, honesty, and humility are all different forms of practicing anti-fragility. There are principles that gain from chaos and adversity. It wasn't until the Enlightenment, the age of science, technology, and promise of never-ending economic growth that thinkers and philosophers conceived of the idea summoned up by Thomas Jefferson as the pursuit of happiness. As the Enlightenment thinkers saw science and wealth alleviate poverty, starvation, and disease from the population, they mistook this improvement of pain to be the elimination of pain. Mainly public intellectuals and pundits continue to make this mistake today. They believe that growth has liberated us from suffering, rather than merely transforming that suffering from a physical form to a psychological form. What the Enlightenment did get right is the idea that some pain is better than others. All these being equal, it is better to die at 90 than 20. It's better to be healthy than it is to be sick. It's better to be free to pursue your own goals than to be forced into servitude by others. In fact, you could define wealth in terms of how desirable your pain is. But we seem to have forgotten what the ancients knew, that no matter how much wealth is generated in the world, the quality of our lives is determined by the quality of our character. And the quality of our character is determined by our relationship to our pain. The pursuit of happiness plunges us head forward towards nihilism and frivolity. It leads us towards childishness, an intolerant desire for something more, a hole that can never be filled, a thirst that can never be quenched. It is at the root of corruption and addiction, of self-pity and self-destruction. When we pursue pain, we are able to choose what pain we bring into our lives. And this choice makes the pain meaningful. And therefore, it is what makes life feel meaningful. Because pain is a universal constant of life. Because pain is the universal constant in life, the opportunities to grow from the pain are constant in life. All that is required is that we don't numb it and that we don't look away. All that is required is that we engage it and find the value and meaning in it. Pain is the source of all value. To numb ourselves to our pain is to numb ourselves to anything that matters in the world. Pain opens up the moral gaps that eventually become our most deeply held values and beliefs. When we deny ourselves the ability to feel pain or purpose, we deny ourselves the ability to feel any purpose. Just a few thoughts. Let me know if you like this in the comments. I just thought it spoke to me very well. It's life. Pursuit of happiness is not happiness. Feel good. Yeah, feel good's kind of like, feeling good. You can't just feel good all the time. If you expect to feel good all the time, you're just gonna be upset all the time. Hope you like this. Enjoy. Go to class.